Have you ever sat down to work only to find yourself immediately distracted or going on your phone and constantly switching between apps and feeling lethargic? Let's face it, our attention spans are suffering, and it's not a problem that's actually inherent to you. It is a problem in our current society that has been wired for these quick dopamine fixes. And now that we are raised up in this society, it's become extremely difficult for us to get our focus back. But it's so important because it's ruining our lives. It's ruining our ability to be present in our relationships. It's ruining our ability to be productive. It's ruining our ability to have this great motivation and drive to get things done, especially difficult things. So in this video, I'll go over a protocol that you could follow that will help you alleviate a lot of this. And don't get me wrong at all, this will actually be hard. It will force yourself to actually practice, but if you're serious about taking control of your life again, this is a really good place to start. My name is Jun Yu. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. I'm actually going to immediately start with a challenge, and this challenge will be what I call the phone timing challenge, and you will be surprised at the results. The next time that you're going to do a bout of work, I actually want you to start the timer on your phone and leave it in a completely different room. And the moment in which you get distracted while doing your work and you go to check that timer, see the time that's on that stopwatch. And I guarantee you will surprise yourself at how short your attention span is, but that gives us a baseline to work upon. And if you want to leave that in the comments below, if you're too embarrassed to mention it, that's okay too, because my intention when I first did this was at max a few minutes. Now I can train it so that I can stay focused for 3 hours and above, and I can still get some really good deep work done, and I want to get you to that point. If you have any questions at all, leave them in the comments below. Give this video a thumbs up, and of course subscribe. With that being said, sit back, relax, and enjoy this video. Number one, you have to set your intentions clearly, and you have to ask yourself why you're doing this particular task. And if you're struggling with that, you need to figure it out, because we as human beings, we're wired to have these clear goals. And often what happens in the chaos of our regular day-to-day lives is we lose perspective of why we're doing certain tasks. And that's the definition of busy work, right? Where you're literally just finding yourself busy, purposeless. And that makes it extremely difficult for you to improve upon your attention. So immediately when you go ahead and the day prior, if you've seen any of my other videos, I always say you should prioritize the different elements that are actually going to move the needle the next day for yourself, so that when you get to your bouts of deep work, then you immediately know what to do the next day. So in that immediate intention should be set. You should understand why you're doing those 1 to 2 to 3 things that day. And if it's for a particular class, is it for an exam? Is it because you want to get a degree in this position? Or if it has nothing to do with that, figure out that why. You have to, because you need a clear understanding, the rationale behind why you're sitting there and going about doing that work. So that is step number one. Number two, let thoughts come and go. A lot of times we think that distractions are external, but oftentimes these distractions are internal too. And we use our phones as coping mechanisms to relieve whatever emotion that we're experiencing. So if we're lonely, then social media makes us feel a lot less alone. That's why we get that hyper dopamine fix immediately, but we know that the consequence long term is bad. So instead of that experience, understand that, okay, I am lonely. Know that that awareness needs to kick in, right? Have an understanding, okay, maybe you're feeling a little bit anxious. Know that, have that thought come, and understand that introspectively without judgment associated with it, without immediately picking up your phone. You need to train yourself to understand when these thoughts come to you internally, that they're coming to you for a reason. Don't make yourself feel bad. Stop being so mean to yourselves. Maybe you're experiencing a level of perfectionism. There's this level of guilt associated with messing something up before, and you're not able to forgive yourself. Is it a level of resentment? Whatever that thought is, let it come to you without any type of judgment. Perceive it for what it is and let that thought go. And once you can train upon this, you will realize how much of an enormous impact it actually makes in your life, because then you stop going on a daily basis of this go mindset where you are mindless in your approach. Instead, you're very, again, step one was intentional, but now you have this really great sense of awareness. When these internal distractions come, you don't immediately jump into the external coping mechanism. And that's often what our phones become. So phones are not inherently bad, but they certainly can be if they're plugged fixes for a lot of our current emotional distress. Let those emotional distresses come up. Know that you're a human being. Be kind to yourself and let that thought come and go. Number 3, you must, this is a non-negotiable, remove the distractions and any other alternatives than the work that you have in front of you. And why I'm so hyper fixated on this is that you need to set up an environment conducive to your success, understanding that for the last 7-8 years, you've been wired to experience life in a completely different reality. You've been shown social media at such a young age. And again, social media is not inherently bad. It's just the way that we've been wired to have these quick dopamine fixes, especially when we're going through these emotional distresses. And then they become these fixes and it becomes problematic in our long-term health. And that is where you have to gain a good, strong understanding that in order for us to break that habit loop, we need to curate an environment that's conducive for us. Now, if you are telling me that you are currently going through these lethargic emotions and you're currently still using your phone as your alarm in the mornings, you're missing the point. That is the easiest $5 investment that you can make that will completely change your life. Go on Amazon, buy a physical alarm clock and wake up to that, have your phone in a completely different room so that when you wake up, you're setting yourself up for success in the mornings, allowing yourself to immediately hop into action, allowing yourself to be able to do more difficult tasks in the future throughout that day, garner momentum, all of that great stuff. And that won't happen if you're immediately waking up and you're getting that quick dopamine fix, right? Because as just as much as your dopamine might hit a climax, right, it might increase rather quickly, it will also crash just as hard, and that is very problematic to our desire to do more effortful tasks later on in that day. But that goes for exactly when you're at your desk. Like, you should not have your phone in your vicinity when you are doing work. If you are even creating content, whatever that looks like, you should be conducive to your success, whether that is even how you integrate your apps on your phone, if you're hiding them in particular folders, if you're creating restrictions for yourself with particular apps, whatever it takes, you need to create this environment that's conducive to your success. And in this world we live in, it's both physical environment and digital environment. So if you're going on your computer and you have a trillion tabs open, that's also a particular point in which you got to look at and think to yourself, how do you make sure that doesn't happen? And think to yourself, how often are you actually being distracted? How often are you using those multitude of tabs, right? It's so important that you recognize that it's up to you to control that environment so you remove any type of alternatives and you can actually focus and train your intention over time. Number 4, get emotionally invested. And this one's an interesting element to this entire protocol and might be something that you didn't expect, but it's all about creating relevance to your own life. And we all understand now, and hopefully you have in all of my learning videos, that relevance is such an imperative element to us learning new concepts, right? The more relevant a topic is, the easier it is for our brains to encode it and to put into our long-term memory. When I am thinking about how to make current tasks more emotionally investing for me, I try to think about what is my perspective on that particular task, in the sense where when I was in school, yes, the busy work in regards to my neuroengineering classes or my cardiovascular engineering classes, trust me, doing Nernst equations at 12 a.m. was not fun by any stretch of the imagination, or doing literally anything in that class was extremely difficult. But I had to connect that to something that I could be emotionally invested into. Now, was it particular to the career that I wanted, or was it particular to even my character development, right? So I didn't necessarily want to go into cardiovascular engineering elements to my career, but I knew that doing difficult things like this, doing fluid flow at 12 a.m., although it was going to be extremely difficult, was an improvement to my character. I knew that I could do difficult things and train myself to do difficult things. There's actually a part of your brain called the anterior midcingulate cortex, the AMCC. We can talk about that quite a bit, but that is actually associated with discipline. It's been found to do that in a multitude of studies. And for me, I've been training that for so long, and that's how I got emotionally invested. I know it's a weird way to view homework, but whatever it takes for you, you should do. Get emotionally invested into your current experiences. And it may be difficult to find that investment. Don't stop at you saying, I don't know why I'm doing this. Figure it out. Like, you have to, because the more emotionally invested you can get on particular tasks, the more you can combine it to maybe your own personal goals. You have an opportunity to actually elevate your focus. And that's, again, it brings us back to this idea of having attention and awareness and having this environment conducive to success. And you can see how these steps are all fully interleaved with each other. And that is step 4. Step 5 is to break down these tasks and make them as feasible as possible for yourself. Understanding that our attention in the midst of that work bout is one thing, but the ability to overcome the initial friction to actually get some work started is also a completely big hurdle that we are not setting ourselves up for success in. So even right now is a perfect example of this. I have 10 creatives to make tonight, meaning that I have a few organic pieces of content for my page and my Creator College Instagram page. I also have to create this YouTube video. I also have to create a series of ads. Now that is a lot, and for me to think about 10 different creatives, I've been procrastinating on this all day, and I had to sit with myself and say, you know what, ignore it. I'm going to put everything else, I literally put it in a font white so I couldn't see it, and I just focused on the first task. That's what you have to ultimately do. You have to try and reduce the amount of friction that it gets for you to start on a piece of work, which means that you have to break it down to its most micro task possible. And this is the idea of you not even just in your immediate day-to-day, but this is how you should approach all your overarching goals in life, right? Like even when you're setting these New Year's resolutions, if you don't reverse engineer them into micro goals or micro wins, then there's no way that you're actually going to accomplish that larger one at hand. Often you'll get distracted along the way. This is a really great opportunity for you to practice so that it becomes a subconscious habit for yourself. Anytime that you see a task, you should immediately think, what's the immediate next step? And let me plan for that so that you reduce the amount of friction and you can actually get the work started. Number 6, consume media intentionally. And I'm about to say something I never thought that I would say that might drive my parents crazy, but I think you should watch more movies. I think you should watch more TV. And what I mean by that is the world has completely shifted into this short form realm. And I am a huge fan of short form content, but it does do a lot of damage to our short attention spans even further if we're not cognizant of this. And what I mean by that is if we're constantly scrolling and if nothing interests us in the first or second, then it's going to be problematic when we're trying to focus on deep bouts of work that are lasting an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours. And it's interesting the dynamic that longer shows or movies actually play, or even YouTube videos or podcasts do for us, because it forces us to actually sit there and engage for a longer period of time. It's very rare that you will turn on a movie and immediately you're seeing the climax of the movie, right? Now you have to actually slowly build to that, and that is actually a good thing. Like you should want to train your engagement so that you can stay attentive to something for longer than the first few seconds. And so I think it's a good balance, right? So yes, in terms of regulating how you consume content intentionally, that could mean in terms of what time blocks you have throughout the day. Are you doing it maybe not in the mornings, but at 11 a.m., 3 p.m., and 8 p.m.? Or are you doing it in the manner of, okay, now I have short form content, I want to balance it with long form content? I don't necessarily think you need a strict protocol to this by any stretch of the imagination. I just think you just have to be very aware, right? So if you are telling me that all you're doing is consuming short form content for 8 hours every single day, that's problematic, and we could probably slowly taper that off in terms of the duration and slowly integrate into long form content, especially if you're struggling to sleep at night and you're like, I really need to do something, like I really need to wind down. Like I would probably hear more to a podcast versus trying to go and scroll on short form content. So that's just a good way of breaking up the different content and understanding what it looks like to consume this intentionally so it does not damage your overall health in the long term. Number 7, be patient. And this is something that I had to constantly iterate to myself because I would find myself getting distracted and actually be angry with myself. I felt like I had no control over my brain. I would literally do that phone test that I told you at the very beginning, and I would have like 2-minute attentions or 5-minute or 6 or 7. And I was thinking to myself, what is wrong with me? And it actually took me time to gradually increase upon that. So promise me one thing and do not be so angry with yourselves with your current state. I remember I was when I had the first few minutes of my attention span seen on that stopwatch thinking I had no control over my life. But the truth of the matter is a lot of this isn't our fault, right? We've been raised up in a society that has been adhering to this type of wiring of our brains. And it's one thing to know where the problem started, but it's another for us to take control of that problem and ensure that we're actually making progress in the right direction. And I hope that this protocol was that for you. If you have any questions at all, leave them in the comments below. Give this video a thumbs up, and of course, subscribe. With that being said, I love you guys so much. I hope you're taking care of yourselves, and I will see you all at the top.